My name is Ouyang. I'm the research associate at MacroPolo, the think tank of Pulse Institute. During my role, I cover the global energy transition and national energy policies.
Recently, as of last year, the Biden administration announced a $7 billion investment into regional hydrogen hubs, drawing worldwide attention into the hydrogen and, in particular, green hydrogen industry. As the world sprints towards decarbonization, and as the need for electricity increases due to the use of AIs and EVs, green hydrogen is again becoming an indispensable player in the global energy transition.
Green hydrogen is a type of hydrogen that is produced through splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen in a process known as electrolysis using renewable energy sources like solar and wind. Green hydrogen is a critical piece of global energy transition because it doesn't really produce any carbon dioxide during its production phase. Some use cases for green hydrogen include as fuel for vehicles, including cars, buses, trucks, and nowadays we also have hydrogen-powered ships and trains. Also, green hydrogen is heavily used in industrial processes. For example, oil refining, methanol production, ammonia production, and steel production. So green hydrogen, different than other renewable sources like solar or wind, they don't really rely on the mood of nature. Meaning that you can produce green hydrogen for your use and store them for future use. In that case, a lot of hydrogen we currently have, meaning brown hydrogen. The reason why we want to switch to green hydrogen is because producing something like brown hydrogen still emits carbon dioxide, which means that at the end of the day, kind of the benefit and cost doesn't really add up. With green hydrogen, not only this is the most abundant element on Earth nowadays, but we could also, produce it, use it, and tap into it really anytime convenient. And that quality, we can potentially, replace coal, which is the predominant energy source in a lot of parts of the world nowadays, with green hydrogen in the future. Of course, when the cost is more reasonable. So as frontier and cutting-edge technologies, green hydrogen is usually associated with a very high price tag. The high cost of green hydrogen usually comes from two things: renewables and electrolyzers. Electrolyzers are the necessary components, in the process of electrolysis that help split water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. So compared with a lot of other renewable energy sources, green hydrogen really hasn't achieved the same level of price competitiveness nowadays. It's really about creating, a market condition and demand for green hydrogen, so that we can see more mass production, achieving economies of scale that would in turn drive down the cost associated with producing green hydrogen. Besides that, another infrastructure hurdle is really the scarcity of hydrogen pipelines. Green hydrogen, different from your other natural gases, is more flammable. Because of that property, you have to transport hydrogen through either mixed gas pipelines or more ideally pipelines that specifically designed for transporting green hydrogen over a long distance. So for example, in China nowadays, we're looking at less than 100 kilometers of green hydrogen pipelines. The lack of midstream infrastructure would mean that in the case of China, that the energy-hungry East Coast would not be able to get hold of sufficient hydrogen gas from their production sites, usually in the Northwest region, leading to a mismatch between energy supply and energy demand. Solution for that really is through, generous federal funding that could help offset some of the very high upfront capital investment costs that some of the midstream infrastructure companies have to shoulder. So the answer with that really lies with generous state support and industrial policy. With more, state and federal funding, which is a lot of countries nowadays are doing, for example, Germany, the US, China, that would really encourage green hydrogen manufacturers and companies to get into that space. this kind of mass production and large-scale production facilities can in turn drive down, per unit costs of manufacturing and green hydrogen production, which help it to make it a more affordable choice for energy carrier. Since green hydrogen is also closely associated with renewable energy electricity price, so expanding renewable energy sources like solar, wind, hydropower could also in turn help drive down, production costs associated with green hydrogen. So to really promote green hydrogen, I think one critical step is to set a set of unified standards. Nowadays, a lot of countries, individually have come up with their specific, regulatory processes or guidelines. But in order to really promote green hydrogen across borders and create a more efficient global market, countries need to get together and set a unified, guideline standards related to the specifications of hydrogen transport, hydrogen production, hydrogen storage, etc. Also, international collaboration on R&D efforts and sharing know-how is critical in terms of bringing technological advancements. However, unfortunately, given global competition nowadays and also with concerns over supply chain security, it is hard to realize that completely. Besides the higher costs associated with renewable energy sources that I just mentioned before, another thing really is the intermittent nature of renewable energy sources. Unlike fossil fuel, for example, coal, that can be really burned and used anytime convenient, renewable energy sources are not at all time available. For example, during a cloudy day, we may not have sufficient solar energy to really power green hydrogen production. So really, what that means is green hydrogen related technologies, for example, electrolyzers, would have to take into consideration of this less than optimal situation and try to work around it, while still, maximizing energy utilization efficiency. Another solution that a lot of companies are currently working on and exploring is really energy storage, so that we can store potentially renewable energy sources that we're not using or that's excessive for use at a later date. Hydrogen or green hydrogen has usually used to be associated with higher risks. For example, in China, just a couple years ago, green hydrogen was still classified as a dangerous flammable element, and that certainly weighs on public opinion. One way to really go about that is through, for example, demonstration projects. In China, the government has set up a series of what they call demonstration city clusters, where they have, implemented hydrogen refueling stations, introduce fuel cell EVs into the public transport sector, so that people can experience firsthand really the benefits of switching to such an energy choice. And that would also make it much easier if the government later decide to promote it to a wider population.
Next in my energy focus series, I'm going to dive deeper into nuclear energy and nuclear reactors worldwide and look into the cutting edge technology and the current state of nuclear energy as an industry.